This is Evan Talks podcast, where we talk and share our mental health journey every other Monday. Our goal is to break the stigma of mental health and to help people along the way. Subscribe and be a part of this awesome new journey.
Hello and welcome back to Evan Talks, and this is episode 3, which is more of me talking basically. But before we get back into the nitty-gritty of mental health, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone, really. It's been 4 weeks since the first episode came out, and to say the response and the support has been epic and far beyond anything I could have imagined is an understatement. It's been one of those situations where you put something out there and think, oh, 1 or 2 people are going to listen, and then suddenly people that you haven't spoken to for years, or people that you would have had no idea would be interested in listening to something like this, have reached out and told me how much they are grateful for what I'm doing, but also how much they admire what I'm doing. So for all of you listeners, thank you very much. For the very few haters that have messaged me, and there's been a couple, thank you to you too, because obviously you've taken the time to listen to both episodes and still feel the urge to listen to the next one. So thank you very much for your continued support. Every listen helps, and even if you want to be negative about it. So that's the first opportunity I've had since starting this process, is to thank those people that have been supporting me and listening through both episodes so far. So fingers crossed you are going to be listening to this episode too. How to stay positive when it's difficult to be positive about certain things. The last few weeks have been tough, right? It's been tough putting myself out there, and it's been tough to hear about people that I know and care about, and it's been tough to hear their stories and their journeys too, which I didn't understand would be an issue, or didn't think would be an issue. And when I say an issue, I'm taking it personally when people tell me that they're hurting and I haven't been able to help them. But I have to remind myself of my own advice when I say that we can only help each other if we know what's going on. And that's the reality of the situation. So thank you for taking the time to send me long emails and messages, and even just a quick phone call. I've had a couple of phone calls from people that I didn't expect. Just thank you, because it means absolutely everything to me. It means everything that you feel comfortable enough to share. And hopefully some of these people that have been reaching out to me are going to be on future episodes, which is amazing, because that's exactly what this is all about. It's about giving people the opportunity, normal average Joe people, the opportunity to speak about how they're going through whatever they're going through, and give them an opportunity to voice their emotions, their feelings, their experiences, but also potentially give them the opportunity to help other people, which is what I'm all about at the moment, is helping each other and getting to know what we can do to help ourselves, but then share that knowledge. So I've had some interesting phone calls and some discussions with people already, and it's so positive. It's just so positive. Even though it's coming from such a negative and depressing place, literally, it is such a positive message that people are being confident enough to talk to people about how they are doing and feeling. So if you're one of those people and you haven't maybe reached out yet, please feel free to reach out and get in touch, because I want to encourage you to let us know what you're going through, and hopefully we can share your experiences with other people, and then that way it will help you, because it's helping me right now, but in that way it would also help other people. I've recently filmed. We're not at that stage yet. Nobody needs to see me talking into a microphone. But I recently did a catch up with my best friend James, and we recorded it for your pleasure, and it was great. It was a great experience to go through, and we're going to play that episode next on the next episode, so episode 4. But shortly after that, the awful news about Caroline Flack, who is a British TV presenter from our South African and Australian and New Zealand listeners, and American. Apparently there's some people in America listening. How mind-blowing is that? I think it's my cousins. Hello, cousins. But the awful news about Caroline Flack broke, and I remember being out to dinner with James and Tom, and we were all just a little bit shocked, to be perfectly honest, as I think the most of the country were. And she had always been a little bit open about her depression and her mental health, and obviously she was going through some personal struggles with the assault charges and obviously being dropped from Love Island and everything else. Even though I've been in some dark places, I can't imagine how dark the place she must have been in on that day to feel that was the only option. And I don't want to harp on about her or her journey or anything, but what it made me clear, and reading some of the comments from people, was that unless you've been in a similar position, you can't understand the awful tricks your depression and your anxiety and your mental health are playing on you in those sorts of dark times. Because if you did understand, you wouldn't be commenting what you are commenting in the comments and everything like that. It's an awful place to be in. And that's what I wanted to really talk about this week. Was I was going to share, and I forgot to do the disclaimer, but I was going to share based on what I said at the end of episode 2 with my brother. Shout out to Damien, because he has been getting some great comments. Everyone is loving the boxing analogy. So Damien, thank you. You can come back on the episode if you're still listening to the podcast. And what I was going to try and share with you guys about getting self-help and doing some things to help yourself, which I'm still going to do. And that will probably be another episode in the future. But I really wanted to kind of touch on what it's like living with 48 hours of depression. And that was kind of the message that I gave at the work comms day that I did. And that was what kind of triggered me to think, let me do a podcast. Let me talk about mental health. Let me get people talking about their own mental health. Let's record it and share. So it's a bit of a cop-out because I've already got what I'm going to say. But at the same time, I feel it's important to give you guys a better understanding of the darkest times. And I'm not 100% at the moment. I'm having some bad days at the moment, and it's difficult sometimes to explain to people what it's like in my head. So I'm going to try for a second. Living with anxiety and depression are massive drains on you, physically and emotionally. I often just have the darkest of darkest days where I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. Let me just do everyone a favor and not be here anymore. And that's sort of what I'm hearing in my head on a regular basis. And these voices in my head are pretty well established and something that I need to change and break out from. One of my old work colleagues who reached out following the first of the podcasts, or first of the posts about the podcast. We're going to be recording an episode with her this week as well. And she's doing some amazing stuff with burnout and self-help courses that she's launching, which I think is going to be a massive help for me. I think they're designed mostly towards women and mothers, young mothers. But I was listening to her talk me through her course and her thought processes behind it, and I was just thinking, well, this is something I'm going to definitely try, because my inner dialogue, or my inner voices are not friends of mine. That's for sure. Definitely not friends of mine. And that's the inner dialogue, and those are the things that make me doubt myself. And what I've realized over the sort of last 3 years, because I had a bit of an episode a little while ago after a relationship fell apart. What I realized after that was that my two biggest triggers are linked, and those are self-esteem and rejection. And for those of you that know me, I'd like to maybe think you wouldn't have a clue that self-esteem is a big issue for me, and rejection is even bigger of an issue for me. But they are my main two triggers. 99% of the time, I don't believe I'm good enough. I don't believe I'm a good enough son. I don't believe I'm a good enough brother. I don't believe I'm a good enough friend, partner, any of it. Not good enough at my job. Not good enough at this new thing that I'm trying. And that's the feeling I have pretty much every day. And it's a real drain, eh? It's really hard. So when somebody gives you a compliment, you don't receive it. When somebody says you're doing such a great thing, you're doing all this sort of stuff, you don't receive it. You just feel like you could do it better, or you should be able to do it better. So when it goes wrong, when it's a bad day and you do get rejected, if it's a boss telling you you've messed up, or if it's somebody that you've reached out and maybe made yourself vulnerable towards, and they tell you, nah, not interested, that's when it's going to be a perfect storm for an episode. And depending on how well I manage that episode, that could be a day, it could be a 4 day, it could be 2 weeks, it could be the final episode that I have. So those are my triggers, and I can't imagine how bad it must have been for Caroline Flack. It's so weird, because I've been working the Brits the last few years, and been lucky enough to be on the arena floor during the ceremony, during the show, and be in and around that area, not because I'm important, just because I have to do that safety stuff. And I remember last year her walking past me, and I thought, she is such a beautiful woman, so confident, so in command of the people around her, and clearly what was in her mind and what was going on around her was a very different picture for her. And I don't want to say that I can relate to Caroline Flack, because I can't, but I can sort of. Like this, I'm quite happy and quite comfortable standing up in front of 800 staff members to brief them on health and safety. But put me one-on-one with somebody who I admire or respect, or find beautiful, whatever it may be, and I'm useless. I'm definitely not good enough. So that's kind of where my triggers are, really, is that I don't have any self-confidence, and I need to change that. And I'm hoping that I will be able to do that at some point this year and work through that. But what I've also realized is that I don't receive compliments. So people say I'm doing a great job, or I'm doing something well, or I am good at what I do, or I'm a nice guy, whatever it may be. No, not receiving it. Sorry. I wish I was, and I wish it was building up my confidence, but it's not. And that inner dialogue is what gets me to those low depression stages very, very quickly as soon as something happens and something goes wrong. And it's difficult for you maybe to understand that, because you've not experienced that. And your triggers may be different, and everyone's triggers are different, I think. I don't think everyone's just got the same bunch of triggers. Otherwise, we'd all be walking around feeling quite depressed about ourselves and having bad days. But I would encourage you, if you don't already know what your triggers are, or can identify when they are starting to affect you, I would encourage you to start looking into that and trying to do some self-reflection. A mood journal was something I'm going to touch on in another episode, but a mood journal is basically, it's just somewhere where you write down your day and what's affected your mood and how it's affected your mood. So what gave you a positive outlook, what gave you a negative outlook, and just write it down. It only needs to make sense to you. And then hopefully after a period of a month or 3 months or however long it takes, you'll be able to quickly identify what triggers you may have. It's an exercise I've done and try and still do. I just use my notes on my phone to record my mood journal, but there are some great apps out there as well. So have a look into those if it's something you need to do, and then think about what you can do differently to manage those triggers. And I'm still working on it. 15 years. 20 years later, I'm still working on what my triggers do to me and how I can effectively manage those triggers. So now you understand a little bit more about triggers and how they could potentially affect your episode or your mood. I wanted you to just envisage something for me. So when I did this talk at the Comms Day last November, I asked everyone to close their eyes, but I know that there's a few of you that have been sending me pictures of you listening to Evan talks while driving, which is great, but from a safety perspective, please people, don't be taking pictures while you're driving. Come on, you know who you are. I want you to just envisage this as you either on the train or driving or at home listening to this, wherever it may be. Just envisage you waking up as you do every other day, but for no reason you find it so difficult to get out of bed. Suddenly, as you're opening up your eyes and you're forcing yourself towards the edge of the bed, awkward conversations, criticisms, disagreements, arguments from years ago start running through your head whilst you try to get up and ready for work. While traveling to work, either driving or on the bus or train, you are doubting every decision that you have made and that has led you to this point in your life. You are overwhelmed with a feeling of not being good enough, and that people closest to you would be much better off without you around. But there's no evidence to suggest this is true. Not a single piece. Before you even get into work, you are constantly second-guessing every thought and anything nice or positive someone has ever said to you. Anyone who gives you eye contact or looks at you are doing so in disappointment and disgust, without having ever met you. As you arrive to work and everyone who you encounter is nice to you, some people ask if you're okay because they can see you're not yourself, but you just shrug this off and say, I'm fine. You work through the day, keeping your head down and keeping yourself to yourself, which you know is counterproductive, but at the moment is the only way you can get through the day. On the way home again in isolation without other people around, your mind is sent racing with thoughts about how you aren't good enough, how you'll be alone with these thoughts for the rest of your life, and how everyone would be better off without you. Before you know it, you're at home thinking about how could anyone ever want to be around this? So you quickly think it through and quickly put together a plan. And the next thing you know, you're taking far more pills than you should ever take. And you start falling asleep in pain and discomfort, but hopeful that you're not going to wake up in the morning. After some time, you wake up. And when you do, you have a feeling of disappointment that you have woken up, but suddenly a rush of relief because you know it didn't work. You go through that day as if nothing ever happened. And if anyone asks if you're feeling okay because you don't seem yourself, you just shrug it off and say, it must have been a dodgy curry. You get through that next day, and the following day, and the following day. And as you get through those days, you start to think, it's not so bad. And before you know it, you're back to your normal self on a good day, or the next bad day happens. That could be anyone, really. That could be the person sitting right next to you, on the train or on the bus as you're listening to this, or it could be you. But that's me. That was me in 2014, maybe. And I've had some pretty close encounters since then. I'm not telling you guys this to make you feel sorry for me, and I'm not telling you about my triggers to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you this so that maybe I take away a little bit of power from those triggers because now they've been called out. But maybe I'm also telling you so that you can feel comforted or reassured that you're not alone when you're going through something similar. And that as dark as that day might be right then, or as dark as that week might be, or month, or year, there's going to be parts of it which are a little bit brighter and a little bit better. And I want you to focus on those days rather. Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm stopping focusing on those negative days. Those days where I feel like I'm not good enough. And where people might reject me for what I do or what I say. I'm going to stop focusing on those. I'm going to stop giving those days the power to affect my life. And the little voices in my head, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you when you tell me that I'm not good enough. And I'm coming for you when you tell me that nobody will ever love me. We are far stronger than mental health. Because if we weren't, we would have lost by now. So, to my friends, my family, those people I have never met and are listening to this, please know that you are stronger than what you feel right now. And I believe in you. And I'm going to start believing in myself. And I'm going to start believing that we can be better than our darkest of days. And our brightest of days can shine a whole lot brighter if we keep on fighting and we keep on working at getting through this. And sometimes we need to give ourselves the opportunity to heal, and we need to sometimes allow ourselves time to get through those bad days, because they will still come and they will still knock us down and they will still hurt us. But if we let them give them less time to do that, and they don't happen as frequently, then we start winning. And my self-preservation is quite simple and quite straightforward. I tend to lock myself away a bit, and I tend to hide away from the world. And that might mean shutting out my friends, my family, stop being as active on social media or texting or whatever it may be. I might do that a little bit more for a period of time. And when I speak to James on the next episode, he made me realize that that affects the people around you far more than you think for a second. And that's why I'm going to try and stop behaving in that way and stop trying to manage my triggers in that way and find other ways in which I can work through it. So there might be another episode where I'll start kind of giving you a bit of an update on what's working for me and what's not working for me. And the last few weeks haven't been easy for me at all. As well as the positives, there's been quite a few negatives happening. And I'm getting through those too. And your help and your support through the podcasts and your messages and your comments, whatever it may be, are making a massive difference and are encouraging me to keep on doing this. I mean, I'm going to quickly fill up the 10 episodes I had planned. So that's going to be amazing once that happens. But I want you to start thinking a little bit more about what your triggers are and what causes your bad days to come a little bit faster and a little bit harder. And maybe write them down. Like I said, there's loads of good apps. If you put in Mood Journal in the App Store, you'll find something. But I just write stuff down on my notes on my phone. And they looking back and reflecting on those does help me understand what triggers I have. Because your triggers will change as you grow and you develop. Your mind is clever and it will figure out that those triggers don't work anymore, and it will start trying to figure out ways in which to affect you in other ways. So you need to keep working, you need to keep researching, you need to keep figuring it out. So the challenge for this week is maybe start a mood journal. That's going to be my challenge to anyone this week who's accepting the challenges. And whatever it looks like, just write it down and reflect back on it occasionally. Maybe don't reflect back on it all the time because that could have an adverse effect, but just start a mood journal and start maybe writing down those moods and those things that hurt you the most. And what I've realized is by writing it down, sometimes it takes away some of the power that those thoughts have for you or those experiences have for you. And then that way you can push them out and work on them a little bit quicker. And that's it, really. That's this week episode. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a downer one this week, and I was confident that I was going to be able to maybe make it a bit more positive. But what I've realized is talking about depression is sometimes depressing. But at the same time, it's helping. It's helping me to know that you guys are out there listening. And hopefully it's helping you to realize that there's other people going through what I'm going through. And you're not alone if you are going through it. So that's this week. Thank you very much for listening. I really am grateful. If you haven't already, please can you start following Evan Talks on Instagram and on Twitter. And I have got a website, evantalks.com, where you can also find the episodes on there in a YouTube video format, but obviously there's no video on it. It's just audio because, like I said, nobody needs that. And yeah, just if you can share a bit, it does help massively. People sharing does definitely help get the message out there and makes it easier for me to find people who are willing to be on episodes, so you don't have to just listen to my dodgy South African accent. And then what I also wanted to share is that there's going to be a little bit of a bonus next week where I'm going to be doing a mindful breathing exercise, which you can use. It's just basically going to be me taking you through a mindful breathing exercise. I know that there's some great apps out there, Headspace, Calm, some stuff like that, but it'll be free for you guys to access and listen to as much as you want or as little as you want. And it's only going to be 5 minutes long, but it's just going to be talking you through a mindful breathing exercise. Just something that somebody's asked me to put together and to share as part of the podcast. So it's going to be a bit of a bonus. Probably be out next week or the week after. I will share on the Instagram and the Twitter pages when that is available, and obviously it is going to be on the website too. So yeah, hopefully that will be helpful to one or two of you, and that way we can start doing a little bit more mindful breathing. So thank you very much for listening to this week's episode. Sorry if it's been a bit of a downer. I can guarantee you that the episode 4 with James is going to be a bit more of a laugh. We have a bit more of a conversation, and I'm actually recording another 2 episodes this week and another episode the following week. So the content is going to get better because there's going to be other people involved. I'm hoping to catch up with the Samaritans to talk about them and what they do. Also talking to some friends of mine, Mark, Ken, and Belinda. They are all going to be contributing, and even my boss is going to do an episode with us. So there's going to be loads coming. Please keep listening. I'm rambling on now, so I'm going to say goodbye. It's been a bit of an emotional episode for me to put together. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen. just thank you so much. You don't know how much your support means to me. Have a wonderful day. Speak to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Evan Talks, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and share it with your friends and family. All the links to the topics are on the socials, and if you want to talk and share, please get in touch. Be kind to yourself and each other until the next time.